I'm Jeremiah Hughes. I'm happy to be in Tacoma. Happy to be in any city, really, because I come from a poor little town called Aberdeen, Washington. You guys can smell the poverty on me. Okay. For those of you that don't know, Aberdeen is a poor little town where Kurt Cobain and Nirvana came from. It's a town so dirty and poor, it actually created grunge music. You're welcome. And as a kid growing up there, it was super annoying because that's all people would ever think of is Kurt Cobain and Nirvana. But Aberdeen has more going for us than that because Aberdeen, Washington was recently voted the ugliest city in Washington. Yeah, thank you. For the third time in a row. So don't come for our title, you will get robbed at Needlepoint, Tacoma. So all I'm trying to say is where I come from, those tents have front porches. They're staying, okay? That's considered lakefront property where I come from, so. Yeah, man, people that don't know I come from Aberdeen, they'll take one look at a guy that looks like me and they'll be like, hey man, you need to check your privilege. Because not everyone's from a gated community, jerk. And I'm always surprised, I'm like, how did you know I'm from the only gated trailer park in Aberdeen? The only other gated community where I come from is called Stafford Creek Penitentiary, so. I was doing a weekend at Spokane Comedy Club and I said I was from Aberdeen, Washington, and everybody laughed at me like it was a punchline. You know how bad your hometown has to be for Spokane, Washington to laugh at you? Whew. Man. I do a lot of different benefit shows too. I was doing a benefit show at a prison not too long ago, and it was really bizarre because I said I was from Aberdeen, Washington. I got a standing ovation, so at least we're appreciated somewhere, you know? And after the show, the inmates would come up to me. They wanted to tell me their tie to Aberdeen, and a guy came up to me and he was like, hey man, I know Aberdeen. That's where I was arrested. I was like, don't sound so happy about that, dude. Also, me too, give it up. Yeah, dude, Aberdeen's a cool little town, you know, a lot of people know it, but we have a hometown motto to help kind of drive like tourism and stuff. It's a hometown motto is come as you are. It's a Kurt Cobain song. I think that's an awful hometown motto for Aberdeen. Like, don't come as you are, dude. We're full-on mutants, okay? Like, I think if I had to pick the hometown motto for Aberdeen, I'd pick something fun and creative, but also brutally honest. Like, I think the hometown motto for Aberdeen should be, welcome to Aberdeen. We put the wind in heroin. When I was a kid living in Aberdeen, man, my dad, he was an EMT, he was an ambulance driver. So the way he described his job to me as a kid was he said that driving an ambulance is a lot like driving a taxi, except you don't get the tips. Which you're right to laugh, that's a really bad analogy. I don't think, could you imagine if ambulance drivers took tips? And you're just getting rushed to the hospital and you see that little window slide open to the front? And my dad's like, yeah, this iPad's gonna ask you a question, actually. You got a tip in the back of an ambulance, dude. Can you imagine if you hit no tip and you just felt the ambulance slow down? I don't think driving an ambulance is anything like driving a taxi. But I do think driving an ambulance is a lot more like driving DoorDash. Because the whole goal of either of those is you got to get the delivery there before it gets cold, you know? The joke's a good barometer to see how cool you guys are, so. Yeah, man, I love doing comedy. I've had a lot of different jobs in my life, which to be honest is just a polite way of saying I get fired a lot. I got fired one time for drinking and working. I got called in the boss's office. He was a jerk. He's like, Jeremiah, you can't be drinking and working. And I'm so much fun. I'm like, who's working, you know? I don't want to come off too negative, though. I've had good jobs. Like, I worked at a daycare for a little while. That was fun. You look terrified, ma'am. Don't worry. I was supervised while I was supervising them. I was very stoned at the time. I had to have help, you know? I learned a lot about kids working at a daycare. Man, I don't have kids, but I learned there's two main types of kids. There's kids that hate getting dizzy, and kids that freaking love getting dizzy. Whereas I call those kids the future alcoholics of America. Because just like regular alcoholics, those future alcoholics don't know when enough is enough. Like, I gotta give big life lessons at daycare. I gotta be like, Billy, we puked twice. We're getting close to what we call a blackout, okay? Now, from personal experience, buddy, what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna wanna lay down and take a nap. Because if we keep going, we're gonna poop our pants and get arrested, okay? I was fired pretty quickly from that job too. Oh man, I've had a weird life. Half my family's from Montana, so when I was a kid, they would take me to the family ranch in Ekalaka, Montana, to learn how to buck horse shit, and be a man, do all of these things that never worked for me. And I had a lot of bad chores at the family ranch in Montana, man, but one of my least favorite chores was I had to give my aunt a shoulder massage. Yeah, because after a couple whiskeys, she got a little into that shoulder massage. If I hit that knot just right, she'd lean back and she'd be like, "Oh yeah." Which was weird. Like, I don't know what the hardest part of that was besides me, okay? So, I'm kidding. A little Montana humor, relax. Settle down. At 12, I didn't have the communication skills to tell my aunt, "Please stop, that makes me uncomfortable." So I did the only thing I could think of at 12 to make it stop, which is to make it extremely uncomfortable for both of us. And so when I hit that knot just right and she leaned back and she was like, "Ooh, yeah." I just leaned in her ear and I was like, "Yeah?" And that worked way too well, okay? So she still hasn't talked to me, all right? So my dad's from Montana too, man. He's a real hands-on, old-school dad from Montana, a redneck from Montana. So every time I got in trouble, he wouldn't grab me by the arm and take me to the car. He'd grab me by the back of the neck and drag me to the truck, He's a tough guy. Or as he calls it, the Montana steering wheel. We have fun at home, And there was this one time I had an ear infection and he had to take work off. He was pissed. And when we got to the doctor, he grabbed me by the back of the neck and he reeled me in. And he was like, "Boy, if you're not actually hurt, you're gonna be when I'm done with you." And I grew up to be a petty, petty, petty man. Because I can't wait for my dad to be on his deathbed. Because I'll have to take work off, I'll be pissed. I'm gonna grab him by the back of his neck and reel him in. I'll be like, "Pa, if you're not actually hurt, you're gonna be when I'm done with you." It was me killing my dad, yeah? All right? I just like to get the practice, to be honest. Just walk around my house unplugging things sometimes, It's all right, man. It's cool to joke about your family. I got a weird family. Like, my mom, when I was a kid, would always take me to her friend's house, Eric. And Eric was a kind guy, man. He was the opposite of my dad. So the feelings I had for Eric were confusing as a kid. Like, one day I went up to my mom and I was like, "Mom, I think Eric should be my dad because I love Eric more than Dad." And she handled it super well, dude. She was like, "Shh. I love him more than Dad too. Don't mess this up, okay?" Which is extra funny as an adult because I got a paternity test done and Eric is my dad. So, all right, that's my time. Thank you very much, guys.